updating that document so that we can close that out. That's pretty much it. Oh, and I mean, obviously the response from Arbitrum, which is great. Like we just saved 25K. So I mean, I think we just basically got the matching. We got the matching ground for the next round, so that's good.
I'm so glad that's resolved now.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that would be good to just touch base on is like, what do we have to do to close out this round? Like, I think it's worth just drafting and sending an email that's like, hey, here's sorry, like sorry. I don't know what we want to say, but I think we probably need to say something. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I don't know. Have we already sent the funds though? Is that done?
No,
That happened already. Okay.
No. I mean, we received the funds from Arbitrum on Friday, but Isaac and Ivy are, I think, trying to coordinate that like this week. But we should check and see if there's anything that we can, any assistance. I mean, I could try to draft just a simple email. But I don't want to step on Ivy's. Like, I don't want to take this away from Ivy. So maybe we just offer. Maybe we can coordinate in that channel to see if there's anything that we can do to help.
Yeah, and I do think this is something that, like, out of everything we do in the next future grant rounds, is to like kind of figure this problem out, kind of the time between, end of the round to distribution. I feel like that's a problem kind of universally. It's not just us, but a lot of people around the space have this issue. So yeah, being more predictable in that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree as well. Yeah, let's offer some support to them, see if there's any way we can help, and yeah, hopefully all of this can get finalized this week. Yeah, and as soon as the funds are sent, sending some sort of communication, I think it's going to be really helpful for everyone and for clarification. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And as one of the agenda topics, I also have to kind of like brainstorm a bit on the type of questions or things that we need to figure out for the next round. So maybe this would probably be one of those, what you're mentioning, Nate. So I think it's important. Nate, do you have any other type of updates regarding to events or anything else?
Yeah, so working on finalizing the February 25th TEPG episode. I also have a calendar out for external hosting shows. Of course, Dr. Nick from Factory DAO is going to do a download. We're going to host those on our TEC Twitter. And so, yeah, really it's just about whenever they want to host their shows once a month is the plan. And so I'm just going to let them have it, kind of just, this is a permissionless thing. Whenever you want to set the date, you can set the date, and we'll start to work around building a playbook for promotion of that event on the TEC Twitter. And outside of that, yeah, that's it right now in terms of just kind of the developments that we have. Still working with CAD and Block Science and BCRG right now to actually upload the videos to Beam. So that's another one that I have a lot of people have made requests with, a lot of groups within the token engineering space to actually share their videos. A lot of the videos are very kind of big, and so it takes a little bit for them to actually upload it into a shared drive. So we're going to have kind of a larger shared drive for that. Yeah, so that's my updates right now. And
That's
I will
great.
say we did have a great conversation yesterday on the comms call about kind of the direction of some of this to work within the strategy of optimism. I think User Reloaded came up with really great ideas in terms of attending some of the optimism weekly like highlight like spotlights they have for the grant rounds, and so just kind of finding people who are building in optimism right now and kind of highlighting their work to the broader public as part of this kind of OP strategy within the events realm. So yeah, I thought that was really great because I've been looking for clarification on like how to really channel the events work into kind of the overall OP strategy and like what we should focus on and what areas we should focus on to get that working.
Nate, can you say that? I got I just missed the first part of that because I was trying to send I was trying to send something to NT and I was realizing no, I'm losing track. What was the point about the optimism integration?
Yeah, so we were talked in the comms call yesterday of like how to kind of integrate, our events program to focus more closely with the OP strategy, and so they user reloaded threw out some ideas like the demo day calls that they have the builders in the OP ecosystem who need visibility, and they do it quite frequently, twice a week, I think, for the demo day calls, where you just kind of have these people who join these OP calls to demo their work. And so finding some token engineering projects within that and highlighting them and pushing them is one strategy. And kind of going over their ambassador programs or their mission grants and highlight those activities. But just tying this kind of public goods and token engineering within OP is I think it's the goal. But I think just kind of as we move forward, like how I steer the events work into the OP strategies, the conversation we had. So if you have any ideas as well, let me know. Yeah, I thought it was a good conversation.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like this is the key to our success. Is just wrapping everything that we do around that strategy. So yeah, I'll be thinking about. I'm starting to spend a lot more time in the optimism world and Gitcoin worlds like that. I'm starting to just spend a lot more of my energy going through those forums and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if any ideas pop up, let me know. So I'm going to try to execute on some of these demo day calls and see if I can find any really good token engineering projects that are actually building an OP and highlight them. But yeah, if there's any other ideas around how to kind of create more events with OP and figuring out what they need, that would be very beneficial.
Agree. Yeah, it was really productive call. Hey Sean, welcome. I just share here the agenda link on the chat if you want to take a look.
Thanks, Bear. Good morning, guys.
Okay, let's keep moving. So, oh, hey, user reloaded. Welcome. He was the person who joined us yesterday at the comms call and provided all of these really cool ideas about how to interact with the optimism ecosystem. So yeah, it's really nice to have you here. This is the coordination team call. Happens every week, so welcome.
Hey everyone.
Okay, so the first agenda topics that I have here are related with our recruiting process. So first of all, as you all know, Ivy will be taking on the execution of the next QF round. And the idea here is just kind of like to make sure that we are supporting her if we can think about ways in which we can kind of like try to integrate her into the team and to make sure that she knows how we work and what to do and things like that. I know probably one of the challenges is going to be her time zone, that I think she's in the Philippines, or at least that's the last thing I know about that. So there might be some coordination challenges in there. but I think we can still make it work. What I'm planning to do, I think she was having today a call with Isaac to go through the grants run book. I think that's great. She's gonna get a lot of context on that, and I'm planning to also try to schedule a call with her this week, more to kind of like just connect and make sure that she feels supported from my side, and kind of like explain her how how we work and the calls. And also I would like to touch on the point of her compensation. How's that going to work? I think there are still some questions that need to be answered there that relate also with the definition of our budget, so trying to figure that out. And kind of like getting into a rhythm where we can have like a good communication with her throughout this time. I think she's gonna take some vacations next week for like 2 weeks, the next following 2 weeks, and then she'll be back to focus on the round. So in the meantime, I guess there will have to be some planning in regards to the round. How do we improve it? How do we develop it? And then she can come back and, of course, provide more ideas and execute on those. So I'm just going to open the floor to see if there are any other points that you guys see that might be important to consider with Ivy joining.
Well, I was just gonna say, the time zone thing. That'll be an interesting question of like whether or not we have to rearrange some of the times.
Yeah, and so is this clearly stated that this is going, like, AV is just taking on this upcoming grant round, or is she potential hire for future grant rounds as well? That's the only thing I'm confused about. And if she's just doing it for this round, are we still looking for somebody to take it on after that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's also one of the reasons why I like to have a conversation with her. What Tam mentioned is that she's down to take on this round, but like there's no commitment to taking on this position going forward. But there's kind of like a slight possibility that if she's interested, if she likes it, she might be able to take on that position full time. So I guess we're a bit in this weird spot where we're probably not going to actively look for hires for this position, as she's taking on this, and then depending on how things go, we make the decision if she's the one that can stay on that, or if we open up again the hiring process, maybe around, I don't know. I guess it would be good probably to have a deadline. I think, Gideon, you have some estimates on when we should be kind of like looking for the program's lead. Maybe that's around March or April, or April, May. I don't remember. But yeah, I think that will be important to be aware of that. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Gideon, to that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think one thing that we could consider is, so much of this just depends on Ivy and her level of capacity that she has and interest in staying on it. But one thing that we could do is, this round will be mid-April and it won't wrap up until like early May. So, she's probably going to be pretty busy just doing that. But we're going to need to free up some energy to start working on figuring out the retro PGF, like how we would run that. Made some good contacts on Friday and get going on. That program is taking off right now. So like just learning how to do that. And then also this thing that the subject matter expertise attestation work that Sean and Octopus and I were brainstorming on. I think that's also something that we need to start digging into. So we're going to need some capacity on that front. So it could be that I think we have the budget to maybe keep Ivy on running the rounds and then have somebody peel off part-time to help with some of this program development stuff. So that would be the thing I would think about, is because if we wait too long to figure out the program development stuff, then we may get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think something super useful that we're gonna be able to do is that based on our budgets and the way kind of like we're budgeting by kind of like by unit, that kind of like allows us to have more flexibility and freedom in the way we allocate those funds. And what you're suggesting, I think sounds really good. To maybe depending on our needs, like we can have Ivy run the specific rounds and then someone else part-time to help us develop the program. I think that'd be a really good combination. Yeah, I guess it's just, again, in terms, like you were saying, in terms of timeline, right? So we don't get in trouble, define when would be the right moment to start looking for that person. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Nate, were I was able to clarify your question?
Yeah, I guess the only like comment that I would have on that is that if Ivy can't move forward with it, doing future grant rounds and stuff like that, it might be beneficial to have somebody hired, like possibly right before the grant round, just to kind of like be able to walk them through the process, even because I do think that NT is probably going to have a time even onboarding Ivy into this as well, and I think we're going to have to work with her on that as well. But having somebody who's going to be, for towards the future, going to be working with the grant rounds is, if we can get them in before, the April grant round starts, then I think that would be really beneficial. Because if not, then I think we'd be having a hard time with the next round, which we want to go really hard on. So yeah, in terms of promotion and making sure we get everything right. But that's just my thoughts on it.
No, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, this is kind of like the idea we were talking about before, I think, of using this next QF round as kind of like a testing ground, or kind of like I guess more like an onboarding round for people to learn how to do things. Sounds like a really good opportunity. So yeah, I don't know, maybe we even, we could try to look for this hire in March before the round, part-time, and having been there to go through the round and learn from that as well. I mean, that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that will help is taking the document that I've been working on, and there's basically kind of a set of milestones in that, and I think if we can just work that part of it, and really try to figure out at least the next 6 months, what's it going to look like? What are the things that we're really going to focus on? That will help us with this decision, I think. Because one last point on this is that detailing out things like Gitcoin's probably going to be slowing down the number of rounds that they do, changing up the pacing of it, and so those are some of the details we need to just even figure out, well, when would the next round be? And we've talked about maybe slowing down our pace on the QF round so that we can fine tune, add maybe in the retro round and learn how to do that. So that's, I think, the thing that we got to figure out is like exactly how much, if Ivy's going to be around. I think that's the first question: is Ivy going to stay, or is this just like a temporary thing? And then based on that, then it's like, okay, when would we need to hire based on what's coming up for future rounds?
So are we looking to go with retro PGF for the TEC over kind of the QF round? Like, is that kind of the direction that we're going?
Well, this is part of what I want to talk about today in the doc. But if we don't have enough time to talk about it today, I would encourage we can do async comments on it. But yeah, that's what we've been talking about through this strategy is basically pairing up QF with our own retro round.
So let's try to keep moving. So we have enough time to go over that. That I think it would be really nice that we can do it all together here. I guess the next item is the outreach for this ecosystem development lead. So the position is basically completed. Just waiting on confirmation from Tam. And I'll probably share today the forum post announcing that we are looking for this position. Working with, also coordinated yesterday with Efra. He's going to be working on some promotional tweets for that to share during the week. And we'll be able to get started with that process. Gideon, you were thinking kind of like maybe brainstorming on possible candidates. Was that what you were suggesting? Just wanted to make sure.
I was thinking more. This was based on something that Ben at Gitcoin said, and it's basically one of the best ways to find people is through networking. So this is also about putting this position in front of people who could help us find candidates. So like Ben West is one. Like the Gitcoin folks are definitely people who I think could help. But it's also like finding out ways to connect with people within the optimism ecosystem. So yeah, it's like, who do we talk to about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I get the straightforward reach that we're gonna have. It's gonna be through our, Twitter following. Then on Discord and the forum. But then I think, having these connections with Gitcoin, that's going to be super helpful. Also on the side of Giveth, like Heather, she's also willing to be a connection there for possible candidates. Now, in regards to optimism, because we are exactly lacking this position, I'm not entirely sure how to develop those relationships with them. Maybe Griff could help us out at least with some guidance on who to talk to. Maybe it's Breaches. Um, I'm trying to think of people. I know that also we could have some sort of connection with Arbitrum, like to try to find someone. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't hurt, but I don't know. I think it would be better for them to have like more knowledge on optimism than Arbitrum, right? But I know NT, and I know her too. There's another girl working for Arbitrum that's just like super connected on the ecosystem that might be able to help on that front. One of the recommendations that Heather did is that yes, we well, it was like pretty simple recommendation, but that we make sure that all the contributors, all the close people here are able to retweet and to refer that position to others, right? So if we can kind of like do that and make sure that everyone retweets and shares it across their own network, I think that's also gonna be important. And I think I'm hoping that could be enough to be able to find someone. Any other ideas?
Yeah, I think on Friday, also in the TCAN call, we should make a point of asking Tam and Griff in particular, like who we can reach out to. I think Bridges is a really good. That's a really good idea, and there are probably others. If we could reach Jonas, because I mean he's a former Token Engineering Academy grad. So that's another person. It's just like finding those people who would find it in their interest also to help us find the right person.
I have a good relationship with Jonas, if that helps in some way.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I think even just dropping him a note saying like, "Hey, we are." Yeah, let's follow up on that. I think that would be a really good person to connect with on this.
Yeah, happy to follow up.
There's also this other girl, Lau Namu, I think it's her name. She's like super involved. She's Mexican. She's super involved in the retro PGF. She's actually one of the instructors in the ETH retro PGF program. I mean, I'm not close with her, but I know her. Maybe I can also get in touch with her, and might be another good connection there.
That is so funny. I just replied to a tweet. I just replied to her tweet just like 30 minutes ago or so, pointing her to the Academy's GPT thing. That's so weird. Yes, she would be perfect.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, she's really involved. I think could be helpful. Okay, so I might as well. I'm gonna start maybe making a list of these people and organizations, and then we can just go through it on Friday to make sure looks good. Yeah, we can go from there. Yeah, let's follow up on this. Okay, let's keep moving. Well, I think it's probably more important right now to talk about the strategy. I had this other topic to go through. I tried to start putting together the next QF round project in Notion with some timelines. I started kind of like trying to fill up the project details, and I think there's going to be some good conversation about it. But I probably this is not as urgent as the other topic. Still, you guys can feel free to check it out. Like the link is there in the agenda. I was also including as a comment some of the questions that we need to figure out, get some clarification on as part of putting together the project plans in terms of the matching cap, the matching pool. There's a bunch of questions there. So we can probably do that. And if we have time, we can go back to this topic, I think, in the call today. But for now, I think let's move into the strategy one. I think there's a bunch of things that we can talk about it. I know, Gideon, you wanted to kind of like go through it, share it, get some more feedback, and maybe let's have some conversation in regards how to take this into the next steps of kind of like selecting a budget, approving it, sharing all of these with the community, and then using this to put together the next funding proposal for the coordination team. So I also included there a couple of, maybe this is part of the feedback that I would like to bring into the document, but let's just jump right into it, and I can pass it on to you again.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I just shared the link, but I will also share my screen. That way we can go through it together. Everybody see that? So
yeah,
what's easiest? I mean, we can take. No, it's not worth us doing a quick read of this. What I'll do instead is just very quickly summarize what this is saying and focus us in on what I think are the essential things we need to focus on. Basically, this first part is saying, hey, we need to get the economy spinning. Like we need to get it so that this actually becomes an economy. And we're going to do that by focusing first on launching one business model that's focused on regranting. And so that's what this strategy is. But that the goal is to build up awareness and reputation of the TEC within, as this bridge between the public goods networks and the token engineering networks. And so that is basically what that first section is saying. This is a means to that ends of like a more diverse economy, but we've got to start someplace. And so what this is in this next section is basically just saying, I just wanted to keep this as simple as possible and just like make this as obvious as possible. It's basically saying there are two changes that we're going to make to the grants program. And that one of our key priorities is improving, like strengthening the impact of our program, because that's just so essential to attracting supporters, right? Donors, funders. So the first one is basically saying that we want to try to connect our QF rounds with a new funding round that we do, which is using quite possibly the Easy Retro PGF tool that Gitcoin is rolling out. So it's basically tying QF rounds to a retro PGF round that we run ourselves. And so why would we do that? The idea is that right now we don't have a really good process for ensuring that these projects are actually following through with what they say they're going to do, and also that they're actually having impact. Those are related, but they're not the same thing exactly. So what this is doing is basically saying we treat the QF round as an initial kind of seed round that's relatively easy for people to secure funding through, but that they don't get a lot of funding through that, and that's by design. That's what we've actually found in running these rounds, is that, like kind of maxes out around 6K or something like that, but that's enough to maybe start a project, get a project started, up and running. But then what we would do is couple that with the most successful of those projects then are eligible to then submit for a retro public goods funding round run by the TEC. I'll stop there for a second, just see if there are any questions about that portion of it. Questions or just like comments or concerns, I guess, even.
I could maybe it's a good moment to mention what I was thinking. I feel it would be good to kind of like bring more clarity in terms of definitions of the different parts of the strategy. In terms of kind of like what do we exactly refer when we talk about the grants program, right? What do we refer when we talk about the regranting model, or what do we refer when we're talking about a QF round? Is that a program? Is that just a round? Is that a round within a program? I've noticed that we can like use these different definitions a bit all over the place for some time already, and I feel that could also bring a bit of confusion. Also, for example, in terms of the incubation program, is that part of this? Is that not part of it? For example, one of the things that I feel it's a bit confusing in the graph, if we're calling that the public goods retro PGF regranting model, I don't know. I find it, I don't know what you guys think, a bit weird that QF rounds are still within that model, although it's called retro PGF. So maybe we could call it just the public goods regranting model. Could be more easy to understand. Or maybe, this is again my perspective and why this confusion happens too. I was also looking at this as sort of the incubation flow of projects. We incubate them by providing them some pre-seed funding through QF, and then they keep moving forward through this flow until they can mature as a project. I mean, it's a really basic, if you think about it, incubation program that especially focuses on funding right now, but there's still the possibility to expand that support to other type of things. So things like this, kind of like just making sure that we have clear definitions that we are all on the same page with in terms of what we refer to things part of this strategy. That's the only thing.
That's great feedback. Yeah. Okay, I made some notes on there. Yeah, I think even thinking of it as incubation may be good. Public goods incubation.
Yeah, so in this model, the QF round would actually be kind of like a kind of a starting point filtering process, and if they have impact, then they can qualify for the retro. Is that correct to say?
That's right. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
C. Yeah.
And I do like that for the fact that it kind of covers like the different stages of development for different projects in the TE space, to where you can have an opportunity if you're new to participate in the QF round, and then if you're having some real impact in the space, then you get kind of qualify for a larger pool of funds, and kind of just graduating on from there. Is there a plan on after that for, like, if somebody continually qualifies for the retro PGF and is doing really good work in TE and is focusing in TE, that we have this kind of like perpetual funding model after that, to say, hey, we're going to allocate some of our common pool resources to you in a like almost stream-like way. I don't know, just that.
Yeah, so let's go to this next part. That's perfect setup for that. So what we're talking about here just now is the kind of the connection between QF and our own retro. So that's this one here. And then two is, and I can already see I need to update this a little bit to explain one piece that's missing. But the idea here is that as a condition of applying to a TEC Retro Public Goods Fund, the project agrees not to apply directly to Optimism for their own retro PGF. What they would be doing is essentially allowing the TEC would effectively, we would bundle their impact into the TEC's retro PGF proposal. And so what would happen is that the TEC retro PGF recipients would get funds from out of the common pool, and then the TEC would then package those up, submit to Optimism for funding, and hopefully be successful with that, and then we could run the whole thing over again. The group could come back and do more work based on the money that they received, and then submit for the next retro round that we run, and then we could roll that up again and just keep doing that over and over again, just like a little feedback loop. If the group stops producing results, then they stop getting retro PGF from us. If they continue to do it, they continue to do it, and the TC succeeds and they succeed. There's a nice virtuous feedback loop there. But at any time, it's completely up to the group to decide. Actually, the Bonding Curve Research Group is a good example of this, even though it didn't play out this way. Like, we didn't have this model set up, but they're an example of a group that could easily go and, they're big enough that they could go and submit their own request for public goods funding, retro PGF funding from Optimism, and in that case, then they would just do that themselves. So there's a choice once the TEC receives its funding for the group to then just break off and decide to do its own thing rather than submitting back into that circle again. The advantages of this I think that what we're going to see is Optimism, the retro PGF rounds are going to get a lot more noisy and competitive. And so there's an advantage for smaller projects like what we would be funding to, in terms of gaining visibility through the TEC by doing this kind of a packaging or, roll up, kind of different type of roll up, working with us, right? So it's a way for them to kind of like throw in with the TEC and get noticed and funded through us rather than having to compete in this noisy world of what's going to be, I'm sure, going to be louder and louder over time. Also for badge holders, I think it's good because it's a way of, as things get noisier, I think we're going to see more of this kind of stuff where basically it's going to be harder and harder for badge holders to be able to wade through all of these projects. And so by bundling these up and making sense of them for badge holders, I think we'll be doing a service to badge holders as well. So that's the second part of this. So I'll stop here and see if there are any comments, questions, or concerns.
I'll just say I get that now. I really like that angle of kind of making things simpler for badge holders. I think that is going to be a problem, and yeah, the re-granting to kind of these like smaller grant organizations is probably going to be the strategy that they employ for that solution. So that's really awesome. I just want to say that. Thank you.
I have two questions, Gideon. The first one is, so are we saying that, for example, if a project decides to apply to the OP Retro PGF, they wouldn't be allowed to apply to the TEC Retro PGF? Is that true?
Yeah, I think that part of the agreement is that what you're doing is bundling your impact is going through the TEC. If you decide that you're not going to run in one of the retro rounds, then that agreement is not in place, and you can just go apply directly. The choice is theirs, but I think that there has to be, if we allowed the groups to kind of essentially double dip and get, this is our way of integrating in with optimism. So the model, I think, kind of breaks if we allow both. That's my sense of it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how things fold out. But I do agree that sounds like a really reasonable kind of like constraint to make sure that the model works. The other question is in regards to kind of like this agreement between the TEC and projects. So we would be saying that, well, what exactly would we mean by saying that we fold their impact into our application? Would that be saying that in our OP Retro PGF application, we say that we funded these projects and that's the impact, or are we saying that whatever work these projects did it was like if the TEC did it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we need to be clear that we didn't do it, but I think we can also be clear that the funding model is such that the organization is agreeing to have its impact roll through the TEC. So it's clear that we didn't do it, but there's an agreement that the group is essentially delegating its impact to the TEC in exchange for the funding that they got in order to have that impact.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Yeah, wanted just to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a note. That's good.
Well, you type, I'm curious, Sean or user reloaded as participants of the BCRG. I mean, if you were able to kind of like picture yourself with your project and like initiating this model, this flow, and you get into this point of the retro PGF, how would you react, or what are your kind of like first impressions of these factors, if you have any? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've been kind of working on other things and just passively listening, so I might not have full context, but everything sounds like it makes sense so far. It's like Gideon said earlier, this is actually what happened. It is exactly what happened with the BCRG. So I think that's really reassuring that we're basically basing this off of data It's not a huge sample, BCRG is just one project, but I think there's a lot of value in that to see just like the natural tendency that unfolded and then build the framework around that to make it repeatable. So yeah, there's no like red flags or anything jumping out for me. It all seems to make a lot of sense.
It would be interesting to run some of the specific projects through this. Like Common Stack would never agree to this, right? Like Common Stack is one of the recipients of RetroPGF funding. I mean, of the QF funding, and but they may not. They may, in this type of model, they probably would not choose to do the TEC RetroPGF because that would preclude them from submitting their own grant. So I think that's kind of the next test, is to look at actual projects and see what they would do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it would be super interesting to do some analysis just to get some samples of the different scenarios depending on the type of project going through this model. Yeah, that's something it would be nice to do.
Yeah, and even talking to some of the groups just to get the feedback. Yep, I think it's really good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going unless there's any other questions or comments, concerns about this part. Okay, so next part is really focused on basically increasing the impact of our grant making. And here, really, it's about how we select projects and then how we evaluate them. And so project evaluation is a really tricky thing. There are whole organizations that just specialize in that. But I think there are some things that we can do that are more Web3 like, and a lot of it is just following what the sector is doing in terms of like badge holders and more like subject matter experts, giving them some type of voting signal, just like we do today with our QF rounds, but strengthening that signal beyond what we have today. So what do I mean by that? So I think we've talked a bit about this, and this is still an area that needs to be defined, but the idea is that today with our tunable QF, we're able to mix signals like TC token holding with the Token Engineering Academy's NFTs and use that to tune our QF signal. So what this is saying is, let's use Ethereum attestation service to figure out ways for the community of token engineering practitioners to make statements about each other and use that as a form of attestation that we can then use to signal subject matter expertise in this field. There's some simple things. I'm not going to get into the details of this here, partially because it would take too long, but partially because I'm still figuring this out. And this is kind of a tricky area. But having that additional signal of subject matter expertise is something that's really important to the TEC in terms of like making sure that we're very good at getting signals for project selection, but also for impact evaluation. So this is a very strategic investment for us. And I think that there's some ways that we can do this, starting really simple and then allowing it to grow over time. So I'll stop there and see if there are thoughts. No, nothing. Okay. Okay. The rest of this is really just talking a little bit about like what we're setting up for next year. Um, I don't know whether it makes sense to mention these specific ideas that came up as a part of the strategic planning process. I'm not sure. They're in there right now, but I don't know if you all think it's a good idea to include those or not. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm also not sure. I think it would be interesting to mention somehow, maybe it's more on a general way, this idea of, we're building the economic model of the TEC, and as part of that, going forward in 2025 and beyond, we'll have the possibility to build and to include new business models. I think you are already saying that in the first paragraph, I think. But in terms of the specific examples, I'm not sure. Maybe my first reaction would be to say maybe not, as it would be kind of like mentioning something that maybe doesn't actually happen at the end of the day. And it might take like a complete different shape. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think we would gain much by mentioning them, probably.
Yeah, I guess the big thing that I think about a lot is just, they're kind of core institutions that are a part of every commons, and being able to have kind of this progression of, they're definitely token engineering focused. Their entire business is token engineering oriented, and being able to kind of graduate and apply for some type of perpetual funding in exchange for integrating the TEC token into your products and services as part of that agreement, I think would be a really interesting, development later on as part of this kind of model, to where we have these kind of bigger token engineering institutions start to say, yeah, we're going to actually incorporate the TEC token as part of this model for in exchange for perpetual funding, and to continue, building utility for the TEC token as a kind of a source of funding for the entire ecosystem of token engineering. So I think this is a really good roadmap.
Yeah, that's definitely where we want to get to. That's where the capital allocation shifts from grant making to more like investing in new ideas that can actually bolster the economy and achieve the mission. But we're like approaching the top of the hour right now. I think that this is great feedback. Thank you. I appreciate it. What would be great is I'll make these changes. What Bear and I talked about is that this, along with the budget, would be something that we could post on the forum and have that serve as the kind of the context for the next coordination team funding proposal. So those three elements would be the next thing that we would. Basically, the way we would wrap up the strategic planning would be publishing a short version of this doc online, maybe linking to this more detailed one with the budget, and then like a separate thing that would be the proposal for funding. Bear, do you have any additional comments or thoughts on that? Or anybody else?
No, I mean, I think that sounds like a really good plan. We can continue coordinating on how to get this done into more of the specifics, to make sure that we can all work together on this, and it's not a wait for anyone. But besides this, I think it sounds like a really good plan to me.
Okay, sounds good. Bear, I'll turn it back over to you to close up if you want.
Yeah. So we are basically at the top of the hour. I think next week we can talk about more details about the QF round. Again, if you have any observations, any questions, feel free to drop them in the project itself in Notion. And yeah, I think that's basically it for today. Just kind of like following Tam's tradition. What do you guys have? What are you guys looking forward this week? Uh, any specific plans that you have? Gideon, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm actually heading up to Vancouver, near you, Sean. Oh, is Sean still here? For CJ, my wife's birthday. So I'm gonna be, I'll be kind of in and out on Wednesday and Thursday, but I'll be around on Friday for the call bear with TEC. But looking forward to that, just celebrating her birthday. I'll pass it to you, Nate.
Yeah, nothing personally that I'm just hanging out with the boy and gonna go on a train ride again. He's been obsessed with trains this week, so gonna take a little train ride with him. Outside of that, yeah, not much. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Sean.
I think Sean is not
You
here.
just reloaded, sorry.
Yeah.
How about you, user reloaded?
It's
How about you,
okay.
Bear?
I can take it. Yeah. In the meantime, well, because I was sick this weekend, I wasn't able to attend my grandparents' birthday. It was pretty a bummer to me. So I'm hoping that this next weekend we can have like a small gathering and kind of like celebrate again his birthday. And it's kind of like a weekend full of birthdays. I'm looking forward to that. Two of my uncles also have a birthday that day. So it's gonna be, I guess, like a lot of family time spent this week. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, user reloaded. Do you wanna give it one more try? Are you around? Okay. Hey, user reloaded. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, but hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
There was something wrong with the mic. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Do you want just to mention like pretty quickly what are you looking forward this week?
Oh, nothing. I mean, one of my cousin sisters, she had a surgery, so I was busy with that. So we are looking forward this week to have very healthy recovery, I guess.
Perfect. Yeah, well, all the best with that recovery. User reloaded. Um, okay. Well, I think we can end the call now. Thank you guys as always. It was really good call. Really productive. I see you guys around.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. See you.
Okay, buddy. Thanks, Bear. Thanks, Gideon.